Guys, we're doing a special podcast today, and it's because we have a special guest who's in town. In fact, someone that Debbie and I met in Israel in December, a great guy. His name is Ze'ev Orenstein, and he's the International Affairs Director of the City of David Foundation, which is based in Jerusalem. We're going to be talking about Israel, about politics. We're also going to be talking about biblical archaeology, all kinds of amazing stuff. And Ze'ev, it's really a pleasure to have you. I want to actually show people a picture that Debbie took in Jerusalem. And this is Ze'ev right here. And he's standing against a backdrop, which you can see is kind of dark. Well, as it turns out, this is a scene of the pilgrimage road in Jerusalem, the ancient road on which pilgrims walked. And it's being excavated right now, and the excavation is ongoing. This part I don't believe is even open to the public. Ze'ev, talk a little bit about, I want to talk a little bit more about your story, but before we do that, talk about the scene here with all this black, ashy-looking substance and what's going on. I think it's a good way to just sort of dive into our subject for today.
So that picture right there is a time capsule. When we're standing there back in December, we're about 60 feet beneath the surface. Normally, archaeology is top-down. You start at the most modern, you go down to the bottom. The challenge in the city of David, the place where Jerusalem began, is that you have a modern-day mixed Jewish-Arab neighborhood there. Now, it's one of the most significant heritage sites on the planet, not to millions, but to billions of people. Now, if this was the United States of America, what would you do? 2 words, eminent domain. You clear everyone out, here's some money, see you later, and now excavate the whole thing. But Jerusalem is not America, and there are many challenges to applying eminent domain in the city of David. Were Israel to do that, the headline the next day would be ethnic cleansing in Jerusalem. So no one's going anywhere. And so the challenge is you want to respect the modern day neighborhood in the city of David of the Jews and Arabs who live there, and at the same time uncover the heritage that has significance not to millions but to billions of people around the world. And so where we were standing, 60 feet beneath the surface, you see the arches that are supporting the neighborhood above our heads. And as you mentioned, when we were standing there, in the earth that is waiting to be excavated along the pilgrimage road excavation, which we'll speak a little bit more about in a little bit, in that earth that is waiting to be excavated, there are pockets of black, of soot. And we pulled it out. And what is this black material?
Well, before we go to what it is, you have it.
That's right.
You brought a bottle of it.
That's right.
And give me a little on my hand. I actually want to.
So this here, you can see. You hold that up.
Yep. So we have to take a look at this. It's a crusty black substance, and you're going to be blown away by what it is. What is it?
So this is ash from the year 70 CE, when the Romans destroyed Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. This is the remnants of the ash that was left behind.
So they burned the place.
They burned Jerusalem down. They burned the temple going back to the time of Jesus, and they burned all of Jerusalem. And this is the remnants of that destruction, not simply as a matter of faith, but as a matter of fact. And you can go to Rome today. You could see the Arch of Titus celebrating the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, where they see the temple treasures being led out of Jerusalem. We have a coin that the Romans are so proud of their victory over Jerusalem that they mint a coin to celebrate that victory that we have over here. Here is the Roman Emperor Vespasian, and on the coin you have a Roman legionnaire towering above a Jewish woman on her knees crying, and it says on it, Judea Capta. Judea has been captured or defeated. Judea was the name of the country. Jerusalem was its capital. The reason why Jews are called Jews is Jews come from Judea. And that was, the destruction of Jerusalem.
And this is the actual coin.
Actual coin from the year 71.
This is unbelievable. And it was you see a triumphant soldier and a kind of a cowering or a bending subordinate. I guess it's intended to show the Jews are submitting to the Romans.
Right.
But of course, there's sort of a final irony to this, isn't there? What's that?
Well, the amazing thing is, there's a story told about 6 decades after the destruction of Jerusalem, where 3 sages, they're walking to Jerusalem. They get to Mount Scopus, just north of the Temple Mount, and they see the temple in ruins. And 2 of the sages begin to cry, and one begins to laugh. And the 2 sages that are crying turn to the one who's laughing and say, WTH, what's wrong with you? How could you laugh at a time like this? And he turns to them and says, I don't understand. Why are you crying? And he said, why are we crying? The temple destroyed, the Holy of Holies. You have foxes running through it. How could we not be crying? And he says, well, that's why I'm laughing. He says, we don't understand. He says, until I saw the prophecies of the destruction of Jerusalem coming true with my own eyes, I never knew for certain that the prophecies of redemption would also come true. And now that I've seen the destruction, I know that the redemption will also come. And we're living in a time, whether in the United States here, in Israel, where there are many challenges in our societies, but it's also important to maintain perspective. And just because there are challenges today, that does not mean it has to be the final chapter of the story. And with some faith, hard work, and some good fortune, the Roman Empire is gone. Jerusalem is still standing 2,000 years later.
The point being, in 70 AD, if you were to survey the world, Rome was king, right? Rome had a massive empire stretching from Asia down into northern Africa, over all of Europe, and no one would have predicted that the Jews would last and come back to their ancestral homeland and the Roman Empire would be gone. And in fact, that idea that Rome was triumphant persisted for several hundred years before the fall of Rome around the 4th, 5th century.
That's right.
So, what a stunning irony. Ze'ev, you're 43 years old, you are an American born in New Jersey, and you now find yourself in a kind of remarkable place in Israel where you're representing the city of David to America. Talk a little bit about your own life. How did an American Jew end up in this? Let's take a pause. When we come back, we want to hear the story of Ze'ev Orenstein.